we're doing a third episode this month. I didn't want to do another one this month. I haven't got time for this, Tim, but I had to release a podcast on the leap day, 29th of February. I couldn't not do it. It was itching my brain.
When do you first remember learning about leap years? Wasn't it a strange phenomena to get your head around in primary school?
It was magical. Love it. I can't remember when I learnt about it, but, the quirkiness of the extra day in the year and, the calendar being broken that you've just learned, but also, how long it took for me to understand the reason for it, I don't know as well, but they are fascinating. They're a bit magical, aren't they?
I'm guessing I first learnt about it during the 1984 Los Angeles Olympics because they coincide with the Olympics, and I reckon that would have been the moment when a big deal would have been made about it.
Summer Olympic years are leap years most of the time. Tell me this, Sam. Tell me this. If someone young comes up to you and says, Tim or Dad, why do we have a leap year? Explain it to me. What's a leap day? Why do we have the 29th of February? How do you explain it?
So I feel like this is another way of saying, Tim, ask me why we have leap years to demonstrate how little you know about
No. There's nothing. I don't. Whether you can explain it or not. I'm not judging. No,
I'm not. I'm not ashamed. I assume. Let me get this right in my head. I think I've got a couple of theories. I think it's because the time it takes for the Earth to go around the sun isn't exactly lining up with the agrarian calendar or the way time works or something like that. So we have to catch up about a quarter of a day or a year or something like that. Is that right?
That's exactly right.
Let's go with that then.
We'll go with that.
All right.
I was thinking about how I would explain it.
Yeah.
You were exactly right what you said there. But I was trying to think how I would explain it in more detail, but on a podcast. Because that's like an interesting challenge. So I'm going to have a try at explaining it more thoroughly.
I have some questions about it. I think there's some potential holes in, but let me hear from you first.
Okay.
You make your case.
Well, let me explain it and see if I plug the holes, and then if I don't, you ask me the questions. So the Earth goes around the sun.
Yes.
And let's call it a circle. It's not exactly a circle, but let's call it a circle. The orbit around the sun is this big circle, and it takes a year. That is what a year is. The time it takes the Earth to go around the sun. So imagine there's a start-finish line.
Right.
That, as it's doing laps, it goes over the start-finish line each lap. And for the sake of argument, let's make that start-finish line the 1st of January.
Right.
Because that's a good one to make it. So as the Earth goes around this orbit, the seasons change. I won't go into all the reasons why the seasons change, but the seasons change as the Earth goes around the sun. We get winter, we get summer. We get different times that farmers need to plant their crops and all these sorts of things, which is one of the reasons we have a calendar, is so people know when things happen. When is your birthday? When do I need to plant the seeds? Things like that. So the Earth happily goes around and it goes past all these checkpoints. On your birthday, it's at the same point on the racetrack every year. At the time that you need to be planting the wheat, it's at the same point on the racetrack every year. So it's important to know where you are on the racetrack.
I understand, yes.
Now, here's the problem. It actually doesn't take a year to go around. It takes a year and a quarter, as you said. There's this extra little quarter. So what happens is, when the calendar runs out, when the year runs out of our calendar and we hit 31st of December, 1st of January, the Earth is actually a quarter day short of the finish line. It hasn't made it to the finish line yet. It hasn't finished the lap.
Right.
So what happens then is our calendar that hangs on the wall starts again, but the Earth has to pootle along for another quarter of a day before its year starts again. So the actual year, according to space and the Earth and the stars and the sun, has now fallen a quarter of a day behind you and my calendar, the calendar we have on the wall.
Right.
So after 4 laps, it's actually fallen a whole day behind. So now the Earth is a day behind where it's supposed to be to link up with the calendar. And as more and more years go by, the Earth falls further and further behind where it's supposed to be. Our calendars are flipping page after page after page, and the Earth is falling further and further behind. And it gets to a point now where we don't know when to plant the seeds, when the weather at Christmas is changing because the Earth is at a different place on the lap than where it should be according to our calendar. So to compensate for that, we just shove an extra day in every 4 years, and that makes up that lag. That lets the Earth, in that extra day on the 29th, you can call it on the 29th of February, the Earth is able to keep pootling along for an extra day and catch up to where it should be on our calendar.
Right. Okay, that makes sense. Let me ask some clarifying questions before I expose the hole in your theory.
Okay.
One clarifying question is it exactly a quarter, or is it sort of like 3.27 hours, such that if we make up if it's not exactly a quarter, then we're actually making up a precisely one day, when actually it's something in between. So should we every 10 years chuck in another 10 minutes or something like that to help us out?
What an excellent question, Tim. And that is why leap years are every 4 years. If the year is divisible by 4, we have a leap year. But if the year is divisible by 100, we don't have a leap year. We say no leap year. But if it is divisible by 400, we ignore the 100 rule, and we do have a leap year. That's why the year 2000, although it was divisible by 100, shouldn't have been a leap year. But because it was divisible by 400, we did make it a leap year. So there are all these little extra rules and things we put in to tweak for the fact that you are indeed correct. It isn't exactly a quarter.
Okay. Let's imagine you've lost some of our listeners. You haven't lost me. I'm right with you. But hypothetically, you may have lost. What did you just say? Just say all that again.
Okay. If I tell you a year,
Yep.
How do you know if it's a leap year? You say if the Olympics are on, which is a good answer.
Yes.
But another answer you can use is the year divisible by 4?
What do you mean is the year divisible by 4? Oh, as in the number actually. Oh, why would that matter? Aren't those numbers just arbitrary? We've just picked when Jesus was born approximately.
Everything. The calendar's arbitrary. Yeah. Everything here is arbitrary. But using our calendar, if the number of the year, so this year 2024, is divisible by 4, it's a leap year. Chuck in the extra day.
Right.
But as you point out, it's not quite that exact, so they need to compensate for it, and they've compensated for it in other ways.
Right.
So if the year is divisible by 100, it's not a leap year, even though it's divisible by 4.
So are you saying every now and then we have a leap year that we don't treat as a leap year?
Yes.
When's the last time that happened?
Well, it would have happened in 1900.
Right.
Because the year 1900, although it's divisible by 4, it's also divisible by 100. And if the year is divisible by 100, the leap year is scrapped. No leap year for you.
So even though it was a leap year, they only had 28 days in February in 1900.
Yeah. Well, It wasn't a leap year. 1900 was not a leap year because it was divisible by 100.
Right. They decided not to make it a leap year. Right. It ordinarily would have been, yes. Did they still hold the Olympics?
So they still held the Olympics. Right. So the year 2000, when they held the Sydney Olympics,
yes,
divisible by 4, yay, it's a leap year. Hang on. Divisible by 100, no leap year. But there's this extra rule. If it's divisible by 400, which 2000 is, the leap year is back, which is why we had a leap year in 2000, even though it was a divisible by 100 year.
Wow.
Because you're right, it's not exactly a quarter, and they have to keep tweaking for that.
They keep tweaking, and they tweak it every 100 years or so.
This system pretty much accounts for that.
Right. So here's my question then, right? This is the hole in your theory.
Okay.
Which is the idea that if we take the measurement of a year from how long it takes the Earth to go around the sun,
yes,
but it actually doesn't take exactly a year, then why do we change our measuring of a year? Why, in other words, why don't we make the days shorter? And you might say, because that's about the time itself. But when you break down time, it goes down to 1 second. Why not make 1 second slightly longer?
There is a reason.
Every hour's slightly longer. Hang on.
There is a reason for this. I will explain it. I'll explain the reason.
Right.
So there are two kinds of years going on here, right? There's the astronomical year,
right,
which is how long it takes the Earth to go around the sun, to truly cross the finish line, to complete the orbit.
Right.
And there's the calendar year, which is the arbitrary human thing that we've made 365 days, because 365 days is the closest number of days to an astronomical year that we can get. Now, so you might say, well, why don't we change the length of a day?
Because that's based on the moon, is that right?
But no, because that's based on the Earth. That's how long the Earth takes to spin on its own axis, like a top.
Oh, yeah,
to
right.
face the sun, and then to turn away, and then face the sun again. And that is also just set by space, by nature. We have no control over that. And unfortunately for us, the number of times the Earth spins like a top doesn't fit neatly and perfectly into how long it takes the Earth to complete its circuit around the sun. If the two were perfectly matched, we wouldn't have a problem. But they're not perfectly matched. So the number of spins of the Earth is, unfortunately for us, 365 and a quarter for it to go all the way around the sun. Not exactly 365. If the Earth day, if the spinning of the top was a perfect integer match with how long it took us to go around the sun, we wouldn't have this problem. But it's not a perfect match.
Well, that makes a lot of sense. That may have somewhat go some way to plugging the hole that I've pointed out.
All right.
Would there be any cataclysmic repercussions that we know of if they were in perfect alignment?
Not that I can think of. No, I think it would be an amazing coincidence. But no, it would probably be quite useful for timekeeping.
Well, it would be useful for timekeeping, that's right. But I mean, there's no relationship between them. In other words, the gravity holding the Earth near the sun isn't related to the gravity or the forces spinning the Earth at a particular speed or anything like that.
There's no relation like that I'm aware of. But of course, we have discussed before, two objects can become something called tidally locked. This doesn't happen with the Earth and the sun, but it does happen with the Earth and the moon. So the moon, how long it takes the moon to spin like a top on its own axis is exactly the same time it takes the moon to go around the Earth, to complete its big circuit of the Earth, the orbit around the Earth. That's why we always see the same face. So there is a repercussion for the moon because it became tidally locked to the Earth, and the repercussion is where you live, you always have you always have the same view of the Earth.
And that's because of the Pink Floyd album. Wow.
So there we go. I am amazed that we have so accurately measured how long it takes these things to happen, like for the Earth to go around the sun, and it is impressive how accurately we can measure this stuff, and how accurately we could measure it a long time ago.
Well, you just would have used a calendar. You just would cross out the days the closer you get to December, and then when you got to the end of the year, that's all.
It's all on Wikipedia.
Of course, before they had real calendars, they had advent calendars, which was very handy because that's towards the end of the year to help you to count down.
It'd be good if advent calendars every 4 years had like an extra door with an extra present. It's a shame advent calendars aren't February based, or the leap day isn't in December.
That's right. That's great.
Chuck in the extra piece of chocolate.
How excited must the graphic designers in the calendar world get every 3.5 years, where it's like, woohoo, here we go, guys.
All right. I do like the idea of a leap year advent calendar.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Yeah. With like a special Wonka chocolate in it or something, something extra special.
So a leap year, also known as an intercalary year or a bisextile year. These are old-fashioned names for it.
Who named it the leap year? Like Sir Alfred Leap or something?
Yeah, Sir Alfred Leap. Yeah, he was. He came up with it. He was a very clever guy. He was really into calendars.
Third governor of South Australia. Yeah.
So my idea for a podcast is a podcast that is only ever released on leap days.
Unlike this one, which is only listened to on leap days.
Yeah. So this is, you may remember in the very first episode, the pilot episode of the Unmade podcast, one of my ideas was a podcast called Blue Moon, which was only released on these rare occurrences called a blue moon, which is another astronomical event. So this is an even rarer podcast.
Nice.
The Leap Day podcast.
Would it be about leap years, or what would be the topic of conversation?
Well, I think we've shown you can talk for quite a while about leap years, but I haven't thought that far ahead. But there is some interesting things about leap years and leap days. In the UK and Ireland, there is a tradition that women can propose to a man in a leap year.
Ah, yes.
Or some people believe it can only be on the leap day. Of course, a woman can propose to a man anytime, but in the more old-fashioned times when it was considered a man's responsibility to propose, there was an exception in the UK and Ireland in leap years and on leap days. In Finland, there is a tradition that if a man refuses a woman's proposal on a leap day, he has to buy her fabric for a skirt.
Well, that's fair enough. That makes all sense. No explanation needed.
No more explanation needed. Good. That's good, because I can't talk for as long about that as I can about the moon and the earth and the sun. Now, here's an interesting fact and shows that my idea is far from original. In France, since 1980, there is a satirical newspaper called La Bourgeois de Sapeur, excuse my French, which is published only on the 29th of February in a leap year.
Oh, wow.
They only, it's the least frequently published paper in the world, apparently.
I wonder if there are any sort of strange cults or, sort of mystic people. You know how people attach importance, or druids who go to visit Stonehenge on a leap year and, lay flat on the ground and, drink potions. There must be some sort of weird superstitions associated with it.
I think in 2004, the leap day fell on a Sunday, and this newspaper released a special edition with a Sunday supplement, and they're not doing another Sunday supplement until 2032.
That's cool.
I like this paper. This is my way of thinking.
I remember in primary school, our primary school teacher introduced us to someone one day and said this grown man in front of us was only 7 years of age. And we sort of looked up, oh, what? Like, how is this possible? Looking at each other in amazement,
Yep.
And then it was explained that his birthday was on the 29th of February. And, the back of our heads exploded with the amazing coincidence that someone could
much like Tim's did just then when I was explaining how leap years work. We will come to these so-called leapers or leaplings in a minute. But another tradition I thought I'd tell you about is in Greece, it is considered unlucky to get married in a leap year. 1 in 5 engaged couples in Greece will plan to avoid getting married in a leap year.
Gosh.
Did you get married in a leap year? I don't think I did. No, I didn't.
I have no idea. Oh, no. Well, no, I didn't. No, I do have an idea, and no, I didn't. I can confirm.
Tim was like, divided by 4 times 105. Is it 400? No.
Hang on, is it a 100th year? No, it's not. I was, where's the moon? I was, just a minute ago when you were talking about leap years, in my mind I suddenly went, oh, hang on, I think this year's a leap year. And then I went, oh, hang on, what month is it? It's February. Oh, hang on, when is it? Oh, no, that's right. That's why we're doing this episode.
Exactly.
So I, like the Earth, every 4 years, am just catching up.
I'm very interested in, let's come to what you brought up, people born on February 29. These are called a leapling or a leaper.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, there is the joke, that their age is 4 times less than it should be.
The opposite of dog years, I guess.
Yes. Of course, most of these people, celebrate their birthday on February 28 and or March the 1st. I don't know. It's different in different countries. I guess if you really want to know whether you can, get into the casino or the pub, that day matters, But yeah. But anyway, I had a look up at some people. There's a very long list on Wikipedia and elsewhere of people born on February 29. Surprisingly few of them I had heard of. Pope Paul III, I hadn't heard of, but right. I believe there was a Pope Paul III many, many years ago. He was born on February 29. Mm-hmm. Jack Loosma, the astronaut, he's one of the lesser-known astronauts from my era of astronauts around that time. So
was he a moonwalker?
He was not a moonwalker. He was around that vintage. He went into Skylab and one of the very early space shuttle missions. So he's that kind of golden era vintage. I have got his autograph picture here in a drawer behind me. Jonathan Coleman, the TV host from Australia and the UK. You probably remember Jonathan Coleman.
I do, yeah.
Yeah.
Does a lot of those ads, those telly ads, those, advertorial.
He was on Simon Townsend's Wonderworld is where he made his name as a reporter, and then he had his other TV shows and stuff.
That's right.
Dave Brailsford, the cycling and sports coach. UK people will know him very well. The current Prime Minister of Spain, whose name I didn't write down, but I believe he is a Leapling. And Tony Robbins, that motivational speaker with the really big chin.
Oh, yeah. With the big pecs and the big chin.
Not a fan?
Not particularly, no.
There were two singers called Dave Williams and Saul Williams, both born in 1972 on the 29th of February, who I do not believe were related.
Oh, right. Singers of what and when? Like 60s or 70s or no one?
Well, they were born in 72, so, more recent.
Sure.
One of them's dead. Is it Ja Rule or Ja Rule? Ja Rule, the rapper? He's a Leapling.
Is he? Right.
And Sean Abbott, the Australian cricketer. He's a bowler on the fringes of the Australian squad.
Maybe, none of them are particularly remarkable, are they? Maybe
no, there were no crackers. There were no really good ones. Really good ones. I looked at deaths on 29th of February as well. I could tell I was scratching around.
Yeah.
There was the rather funnily named Pope Hilarious.
Oh, right.
He wasn't called Pope Hilarious for funny reasons. I think it's some play on Hillary, the word Hillary or something, but it's a long time ago. And Pat Garrett, the sheriff who shot Billy the Kid, died on the 29th of February.
Oh, really?
That's all I got. There's a long list, but
it's not even Billy the Kid was shot that day. It's the guy who shot Billy the Kid just happened to die later on.
Yeah, 17 years later. on February 29. Throw me a bone here, man. That's great. There's also a really interesting list, right, of things that happened on February 29, like, events. And I found it interesting because some of them were like, going to be monumental. Like, let me give you an example. James Madison University in Virginia was founded on that day. So they decided like that to have their, founding day on February 29, knowing the problems this was going to cause with the anniversary. Like, the Czechoslovak National Assembly in 1920 adopted its constitution on February 29. And you'd think, okay, well, this is a day we're going to celebrate in the future, like it's going to be a significant day. Why do it on February 29?
It must feel special at the time. The events coordinator goes, oh, do you know what? What would really work? If we bring it forward a week, it'll be the... What's it called? It's not the leap day, the extra day. What's the actual name of the leap day?
It's called a leap day.
The leap day, right.
Yeah.
Why did February get it? Is it just because it has fewer days anyway, so it makes sense?
Good question. I didn't find that out in my pre-show reading. That seems logical, doesn't it? Like, chuck it in the one that's going to... And also save us money on advent calendars. Don't put it in December.
That's right. Indeed. Fewer chocolates.
If you put it at the end of December, though, I guess it wouldn't hurt the advent calendar. But
it would kind of work the whole year having an extra day right at the end of the year. Like a New Year's Eve is kind of its own day. 32, the only month with 32 days.
Yeah, imagine counting down to New Year's Eve. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Oh, hang on. Oh, no. Hang on. Divide by 4. Oh, no. We've got a whole nother day.
It's a leap.
Oh, I didn't realise. Oh, well. Let's do it all again tomorrow night. I looked at other things that happened on February 29. Like, there's a whole big list. Like, Abel Tasman, he was Dutch, wasn't he? Abel Tasman, I think, of Tasmania fame. He started his second Pacific voyage on a leap day in 1644 and stuff like that. So, whatever. But there was one that tickled me for some reason. There was this famous stone in Argentina it was called the Wobbly Stone. This balancing rock, and it was this amazing rock, this huge boulder that weighed like 300 tons. That was really precarious. It was a real landmark of this part of Argentina.
Oh yeah.
And then one day at night, it just fell.
Oh wow. Well, it's precariously. Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's impressive, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
And sadly, one day it just fell and broke, and that happened on February 29, 1912. It waited for a leap day. Now, time for prizes for our Patreon supporters. We experimented with having nominees. I came up with a new algorithm that spits out 10 nominees, and from those nominees, 3 people win prizes. We're going to do it again. But I'm not sure for how long we're going to do it. I really want to know what people think about this, because last episode, one of the nominees who had their name read out, a stakeholder, was Sam from Michigan. And then Sam was not one of the winners. He was one of those people who, just had to politely clap as the winners were announced. And Sam got in touch and said, Brady and Tim, the Oscar nomination-style prize drawing ended up being weirdly stressful, which I didn't expect when Tim suggested the idea. For some irrational reason, it stressed me out in the same way gambling does. But at least with gambling, I know what I'm signing up for when I sit down at the table. The one positive from this is that it's sort of confirmation that I'm in the running for future prizes, assuming that I am the Sam from Michigan. But it was still not the best feeling experience. Just my 2 cents in case you guys wanted feedback on this experiment. Appreciate the podcast. Keep up the good work. Sam from Michigan.
Well, that's interesting. I was... when you started reading out that someone who had been nominated but not won had got in contact, I thought, this will be an encouraged thing to say. It was great just to hear my name. Love you guys, all the rest of it. But actually, it was stressful. How interesting.
Yeah, I guess it's like knowing how close you came.
Yeah.
It's like more frustrating. I'd rather not have known that I nearly got a prize.
Because he was in the running before, and yet he didn't feel stressful because maybe it felt like it was never going to happen.
Yeah.
But that he came so close.
Yeah.
That raises all sorts of questions for other people who have been nominated for things like the Booker Prize, where for months and months there's like a top 10 out there so everyone can read them, and then a top 5 so everyone can read them. And then the winner's announced. And you wonder, is it torturous for the people?
Imagine if we read out the nominees but didn't announce the winners until the next episode. That would be mean.
I don't think it's a bit too much for Sam to bear.
Tim, do you want to get your Oscar nominee voice on and read out the 10 nominees this week? Sorry if we're about to stress you. Only 3 of you are going to win. Who are the nominees, Tim?
And the nominees are Richard from Cambridgeshire, Christian from Oslo, Mickey from New Jersey. I'm going to say it's not Jürgen, but Jugan in Germany.
I think that's Owen, because he's also got an Irish surname, and I think that's like an Irish way. So even though he's in Germany, I think that might be Owen.
Oh, Owen. Owen in Germany. Fantastic.
Owen.
Vladimir in Washington State. Rye, also in Washington State. And Joe in Washington State.
They all came out in a row by coincidence. It's amazing.
Washington State is like the Titanic of this year's Oscars, just coming up with 3 nominations.
All the nominees. Yep.
And Andrew in Parkdale, Victoria. Michelle in Calgary. And Ian in Hampshire. You've been in the UK for a long time, so it's tempting for me to go Hampshire. Do you say shire or shire? Do you say that shire, really?
Hampshire.
Shear, is it?
Like shearing a sheep.
Hampshire. Okay. Hampshire. Is that how the Brits say it as well?
Yes.
Cambridgeshire, yeah. Or the English, I should say. Yeah. Shear. I feel like in movies they say it, the last bit, the shear, so quickly that it's almost like a ship, like it's just off the back.
It is quite. It is Cambridgeshire, Hampshire, Nottinghamshire, Leicestershire.
Our nominees are hoping this sheer conversation ends very soon so they know the winners.
Yes. Okay, nominees, are you ready? Can I announce the winners?
Go for it.
All right. The winner of a souvenir spoon, one of our original Unmade podcast spoons, real collector's item, much, much sought after, is Andrew in Parkdale, Victoria. That's in Australia, and that means maximum postage for Brady. The winner of the keyring, the leather keyring, Unmade podcast, Australian nut, is... We were always going to have to do this one again, weren't we? Owen? Maybe? Owen in Germany.
Ewan, Owen, Jürgen... It's not Jürgen, is it?
Eogan. It's Eoghan.
Garn. So on its own, it's Jürgen.
Funky spelling.
Owen.
I think that's Owen.
Cool. It's a cool looking name, I have to say.
Yeah. The winner of the collector cards, Spoon of the Week collector cards, an assortment in an envelope are being sent to Christian in Oslo.
Oh, congratulations.
Washington State gets nothing.
Nothing?
Despite having 3 nominees.
What was a film? Was there a film that got nothing in history despite all the nominees?
What's the most nominations at the Oscars without winning an Academy Award?
I know Michael Jackson's Bad is in that category.
What, for
It
the
lost out
Grammys?
for Grammys, yeah.
The Turning Point in 1977 received 11 nominations but didn't win a single category.
But they're still saying it's one of the best 5 films that year. What year was that? 1977.
77. Not a leap year.
19.
Maybe they should give, like, in leap years, they should give 2 Oscars to Best Picture.
Just randomly.
Yeah.
Or a random winner. Like a wild card. There should be a wild card Oscar just for a great film out there that's, just for anything. Just going, look.
Yeah.
It was, look, let's just be honest. It had Brad Pitt and he looked great. Or
Or just do it random like I do with the patrons. By the way, speaking of patrons, 3, it's not normally this many, 3 different Patreon supporters had their names spat out by the algorithm to be nominated, but weren't nominated because they haven't supplied me with a postal address. And if you don't give me a postal address, I can't send you prizes. So, and that's fine. You don't have to submit a postal address. That may be a completely deliberate decision, and that's fine. But just a reminder, if you are a Patreon supporter, do make sure you go in and put a postal address if you want to be in the running for prizes. All right. We're done. Tim.
What do you mean we're done?
Do you have an idea for a podcast?
Oh, we're done. Oh, I was going to say, for goodness gracious.
No, we're done with all my faffing around. Now it's time for the real reason people listen. Tim's podcast idea. The cherry on top.
Yes, the cake or the cream. The caviar. Look, my idea is simply called dream location. In other words, where is the dream location to record an episode? And I mean, like, specifically in this seat, in this place. You know what I mean? In this room, at that place.
Where would if you could record one podcast anywhere, where would it be?
Where would it be? What about inside the Sistine Chapel?
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah, to record a podcast looking up at the roof of the Sistine Chapel.
Because my brain immediately goes to, places that no one else can get to. Like the moon or, space. Although they do, podcasts and stuff in space, I guess. I'd probably do them for the NASA and that. But, I like, the Oval Office.
Yes. Yeah, that would be cool.
I like this side. I like the idea, like, my dream location.
The idea being, of course, that you work hard to try and actually do the episode. Where are we now and what's going on around about us?
Yeah.
It doesn't also, can I say, have to be somewhere famous. Like, I was inspired by your idea last time about me getting inside the Golden North factory, just going in the ice cream, going to your favourite factory for your favourite food and recording an episode in there. That's a cool idea.
Summer of Mount Everest. And then the next week, you're at the bottom of the Mariana Trench.
Gosh. The Moles Balls in Adelaide.
Wreckage of the Titanic.
The wreckage of the Titanic. All the way down.
That'd be cool.
They're very extreme ideas you're coming up with, though.
Oh, sorry. Would you like me to make them more boring?
So just because it's called dream location doesn't mean you have to go overboard.
Sorry, I didn't say the Golden North Ice Cream Factory out in the sticks of South Australia. That's going to be a real cracker.
What I mean is, would like the in the centre of Anfield for you, the home of Liverpool, would that be a cool place?
Yeah, Liverpool's home ground. Yeah, that would be nice.
Because I think that's an occasion to go there and talk about why you've chosen here and why this is a dream location. And you could talk about your love of Liverpool and how it must have seemed like a fantasy land when you were young, thinking that you could ever go there and actually see a match or something, because it was just on a little TV at home, that we saw once a week.
What about you? Is it some music venue or something? Or
I like the idea. We've mentioned before Hansa Studio in Germany, which I know you've actually been to and didn't understand that.
I've played a guitar in there.
Yeah. Yet another Brady experience that he's just walked through half awake, not knowing it's a fantasy of Tim.
Oh, did I tell you I had dinner with Nick Cave last night?
That's right. You wouldn't say it like that. You'd go, oh, yeah, no, he's good. See you, Nick. All right. And then just move on. So Hansa Studio, I like that. So there's a few famous studios that are in that way, in that sort of vintage.
You'd have good acoustics there too for your podcast.
It's a perfect place for a podcast, actually, isn't it, in that sense? Yeah, so I like that idea. There's some venues, some particular venues, such as CBGB's, which doesn't exist anymore in New York City. That'd be pretty cool. Or Brixton Academy, a few places like that would be great to go to. There's some nostalgic places as well. Like I'd love to go to the Sydney Mire Music Bowl in Melbourne, where there's some big carols, Christmas carols, and I grew up watching the Christmas carols there. And every year we'd say, oh, we should go next year up to the big city, Melbourne, to actually go to the carols, which is like a big, massive all-day ordeal that we never got around to. I love the idea of actually playing the Music Bowl, you know what I mean, as a podcast, just recording and talking about those memories and how long it's been there and who's played there.
I'd like to do the South Pole or the North Pole, but the place I'd really like to make a podcast is a place called Point Nemo.
Where's Point Nemo?
Point Nemo is, how do I say where it is? It's in the South Pacific Ocean. Mm-hmm. It's the point in the sea furthest from any point of land anywhere. Like you're in the sea and you'd be swimming there or in your boat, and it's the furthest you can possibly be from land.
So it's just a point in the ocean. It's not a bit of land there. Like it's not an island. Yeah.
No, there's nothing there. And there's you're 2,688 kilometers from land.
Does that include land down? Like how deep is the ocean at that point?
Oh, no, the ocean's not that deep. No, it doesn't include land down. Right. I don't know how deep the ocean is there, but the deepest the ocean gets to, I think, is...
Isn't it like 8 or 11 kilometres or something?
Like, 10 kilometres or something, isn't it?
Yeah.
I don't know. So that's, So no, not including down. I don't count that as land.
Right.
So a podcast from Point Nemo would be pretty awesome. Just get your boat there. I don't think you could anchor it, but just stop it there and just do a podcast, knowing how far I am.
It would be the perfect place for us also to drop. We're not saying we have done this, but we could do this as an idea, as a hypothetical idea, to drop our podcast in a bottle. That would be the perfect place to leave one of those.
Good idea. I'd love to hear from other people where they would most like to. I mean, we're saying where you'd most like to record a podcast, but what we're really saying is it's the place you really want to visit.
But I think it makes a good podcast because because you talk about why. Not just, oh, isn't it lovely here? There's a lovely view. You say, well, this is the significance with this.
What a great podcast, right? You say you've got unlimited budget. Your podcast, again, we go back to this thing we always go back to, like Desert Island Discs or, having guests. What's a good format for having guests? You say to each guest, you're my guest next week. Tom Hanks, you're on the show next week. We will take you anywhere you want to go for the podcast. Anywhere you say, that's where we're recording. And each week it's somewhere different. What an amazing thing that would be. And they could just throw it out there and I want to go. I want to go to Point Nemo. I want to go down to the Mariana Trench. I want to go to Hansa Studios where Brady played guitar once. Whatever you say, we'll take you there.
And why? Why?
Yes.
That's the bit. Because I like the idea of going to find something significant and personal and talking it through. That's sort of going back to where your parents grew up or come from, or the homeland. I mean, that's a pretty common trope. But finding a specific point or house or door where something like that happened.
Yeah.
The very spot.
Good call. Like it a lot.
Spot is a podcast about dream locations.
All about spots. All right. Excellent. Well, shall we pull up stumps here?
Can I ask one more question about leap years?
Yeah, of course.
You know how you said that there's there's like, let's say, an arbitrary the start finish line. At some stage when they started the calendar, they had to pick a point and say, okay, the calendar starts now. Presumably they chose midnight and that's based on the Earth spinning around, and it, you know what I mean? But it went at what point did they say, let's start the calendar tomorrow, and then 4 years from now we'll have a leap year?
I don't know. There's a lot written about. I mean, leap years came later. Leap years sort of evolved and have changed over time, and the way that and different calendars from different cultures account for this problem in different ways. By the way, you can read all about it on Wikipedia and stuff. But yeah, why January 1st is where it is on the Earth's turn, I don't know, because the natural points you'd think to start and end years maybe like the solstices when you have the longest and shortest days. But they kind of don't match with January 1 in any way. So I don't know the answer. I don't know where the Earth is on January 1 in its great voyage around the sun is chosen. I can't tell you the answer to that. Maybe it's to do with the constellations, maybe, because the constellations move in the sky throughout the year depending on where the Earth is, and so it could be something to do with where the sun is in relation to the background stars, is basically what I'm saying. But but I don't know. I don't know the answer.
Get back to us on it.
Tim and I are going to go to the request room and do a quick request room for the Patreon supporters where we answer a few questions. I've got them ready to go. But I wanted to end this episode in a bit of a different way if I could, Tim. In a minute, I'm going to play a little jingle piece of sound we play at the end of every episode. And then I'm going to play what we have so far on the $1 Million Podcast.
Oh.
So I'm going to play them. I'm going to so when the jingle plays, you can stop, or you can go to the request room, or you can go about your business, or you can hang around for another 5-10 minutes and listen to the contributions so far, because I'm finding it really interesting. It's really fun to listen to, and I want as many people as possible to hear some of the stuff. We've got all sorts of stuff going. Just recently, we had a submission from someone who has a recording of a radio amateur talking to the International Space Station, which is brilliant. That's something people sometimes do. These radio hams can sometimes get in touch with the space station. Got a really, really nice one of those with a nice story behind it. We've got someone sent in their dog barking, things like that. Someone just saying that they love their wife. All sorts of lovely stuff. So if you want to hang around and have a listen, do so. And if you want to contribute some audio, you can do that too. There'll be all the links in the usual places.
Good night, Australia.
Welcome to the $1 Million Podcast, where $1 gets you 1 second of airtime. What do you want us to hear? Click on the links if you'd like to take part.
Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, and...
Come one, come all, to the very first juggling show on the $1 Million Podcast. My name is Blake, and I'm a juggler, and I've always wanted to perform my craft for the civilians. This isn't exactly how I envisioned it, but we're going to make it work, because podcasting isn't the worst platform for juggling. I mean, I think this is going to be a lot better than when I tried to blog my juggling shows. So, starting off with very simple 3-ball juggling. Thank you. Now I'm going to do my first trick, which is juggling 3 balls with my eyes closed. Oh, sorry. I dropped one. With my eyes closed, okay? My eyes are shut. Thank you. I'm just realizing this is what this show looks like to all of you. Okay, eyes are open. It's time for the big finish. I'm going to throw all 3 balls up in the air, spin around 3 times, and catch them. Let's see how it goes. And I've done it! Oh, thank you. I'm running out of time. The curtains are closing. You've all been a great audience. I hope this has been the best juggling show you've ever heard. Good night!
Graying hair? Try GR7. Go to gr-7.uk.
Ahem. Hello, my name is Dan McGill, and I hurried to get here first to tell you I wrote a sci-fi trilogy named Earth Burst. Unfortunately for me, this famous guy wrote a similarly named series. He published it 2 months before me, and he gets all the search queries. Realistically, it's probably not his fault that I have bad SEO. And I'm happy I published my Earthburst books. I just wanted you to know. Jamaican rice rats forever, baby.
Shayla,
Yes.
you're the most beautiful woman in the world, and I'm so happy I married you, and you're a wonderful mother, and I love you very much.
Oh, thank you.
I extend my deepest condolences to the Bradys. I hope Audrey and Lulu are enjoying their times at the farm upstate. Love, Tim.
Who is this? How'd you get this number?
Are you two using Slack at work? Make it less dreadful and finally get to know your coworkers by adding the water cooler bot. Visit watercooler.site today.
This is a Gaggle Holdings message. By decree of Gertrude III. What's a Dua Lipa?
Hey, this is Adam, and I proposed to my wife on a radio show and wanted to recommit my love for her and my daughter Shannon, who has the same birthday as Brady. Also, listen to This Is Here if you like education podcasts.
Thank you, Alison Wilbraham, for introducing me to the Unmade podcast. It changed my life to the podcast world.
If you're looking for a clean fantasy book series, check out the Soul Power series by Phoebe Neighbors. That's Phoebe Neighbors, Nabors. Available on Amazon.
Hey, 1SS, this is Kilo Charlie 1, Mike Echo Bravo.
Kilo Charlie 1, Echo Bravo, this is November Alpha 1, Sierra Sierra. Welcome aboard the International Space Station.
Correction on the call. Kilo Charlie 1, Mike Echo Bravo.
Kilo Charlie 1, Mike Echo Bravo from NA1SS.
NA1SS, this is Kilo Charlie 1, Mike Echo Bravo.
Kilo Charlie 1, Mike Echo Bravo, this is NA1SS. Welcome aboard the International Space Station.
Thank you from Connecticut. NA1SS, this is KC1 MEB. Thank you so much. I want to say you're my hero. Stay safe.
And KC1 MEB, thanks so much for the contact. It's a privilege to be up here, and it's fun to get to chat with y'all.
I got into satellites, talked to an astronaut, and
it's my pleasure, and it's a bucket list item for me to be able to make these contacts, so thank you.
NA1SS, this is Kilo Charlie 1, Mike Echo Bravo.
Kilo Charlie 1, Mike Echo Bravo, November Alpha Sierra Sierra. Welcome aboard the International Space Station.
Thank you from Connecticut.
7-3.